Welcome back, everybody, to the 42 Days of Magical Practice. We're on day 19, and today we're going to talk about breathing. And
Not breathing. Oh my God, that's so boring. I've heard about breathing a million times.
Yes, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, breathing's so important. No, the breathing is not the exciting part. The exciting part is, what does it do for you? How can it change your perceptual state so quickly, so effectively, change you? And it's all about change, altering your state of perception. That's all this is. You're already doing it. It's just that you're trapped in this hypnotic rhythm of what you have right now. So the breathing is just a way to convince you that you can change some aspect of your perception. When you realize that you can do that, again, consistently, that consistent results brings up a confidence. So can I extend that idea a little bit more? If I can change my perception of even the state that I'm in right now, and I can do that consistently, maybe, just maybe, whatever else they're saying could be true as well. That if I change this, or I change my small aspects of my home, or I do this or I do that, that's going to produce a different environment for me, a different effect in my life, one that I would love to have more of. That's all it is. So again, breathing, in and of itself, especially the way it's been presented, is not that exciting. And we've sort of, by overdoing it, and everybody's saying that it's important because they think it's important. It is important, but we've done it in a way that just rehashes it so often again. Now we've got a new hypnotic rhythm that we've been trained to, that yes, breathing is important, but that's as far as it goes. I should be doing it, but I'm not doing it, so that's as far as it goes. And all of these, sort of broad parameters.
I think the least exciting thing about it is that, for me, a lot of times when we think about meditation or breathing techniques to put us into a different state, or like you said, a different state of perception, it's like you're just you'll see things in your life differently, or you'll see the way things are, but see it from in a different way, or, but maybe it helps me feel better about the way things are. But This is about, how does it change the way things are?
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been regardless if there's a vehicle involved or not, have you ever been in a near accident but didn't happen because of something you did? So
probably, yeah. I'm trying to think of
that. And at that moment, did your perceptual state change when you realized that everything was going to crap, and that you had to take an action in order to avoid a bad situation?
Mm-hmm.
Usually when that happens, people have very similar sort of perceptual state shifts, right? Everything seems to slow down. People talk about that all the time. All of a sudden, I'm driving 65 and everything seems to be in slow motion. Why is that? Because once you realize what's going on, your adrenaline, jumps, and it's instantaneously, all of these brain chemicals are shifting. And so your brainwave patterns shift, right? They shift into a very high state. And so everything else looks like it's slowing down. Your perception, it hasn't slowed down, but your perceptual state makes it look relatively slower. So the idea is that you're able to function and you think more clearly and you react quicker to avoid a bad end result, right? So all of that is the same thing. When we talk about the breathing, the thing to focus on is, can I do something in a very short period of time that will consistently change my perceptual state, alter my perception? And as I alter those brainwave patterns, as it shifts, I'm going to get a broader view of all of the parameters of whatever I'm thinking about. So I get more information in, I can make a better decision. about what is the next step to take. That's the exciting part. That's the juice that we're talking about.
Right.
It's like,
Yes.
if it's just, choose a door, there's 3 doors there.
Yes.
But you start saying, oh, behind one of them, there's a, mad alligator. And behind one of them, there's $1 million in a briefcase. And behind one of them is a Snickers bar. There's like all of this information, and there's little clues out there, but you only have a short instance to look at them. So, it's like when they train military or police forces, right? So some of them are trained so that their perceptual state opens up, and some people are just better at this than others naturally, but you can train it to take a snapshot almost of an instant there, and they can describe everything in the room. And other people are just like, they give false reports of what's going on, right? Or the people that are perpetrating it, right?
So do you think that, because I know exactly what you mean. I mean, especially about, using breathing techniques to put yourself into an altered state of perception, even within yourself during a meditation, not just when you're out in your daily life, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you do see things differently, and you do get a different perspective and different, even like, you could say answers to questions, but you could also say, oh, I'm focusing on this aspect of my life, I'm working on this thing. But when you drop into that different perceptual state, you have a different perspective on that situation as it currently is right now, or the factors or aspects that are going to go into changing it.
Right. I mean, it's the difference between getting a soundbite and getting the whole conversation.
Right.
What's the context?
And do you think that means that all these kinds of answers or different perspectives are already within us at a different level of our awareness?
You're just able to tease them out and access them.
Right. And so it's like when we're in our normal day-to-day mundane reality, we're functioning in our normal lives or whatever, or worried about this or thinking about that, or, freaking out about this thing or whatever it is.
Right.
It's like you're not perceiving the world and the situation on the level where the remedy to that, or let's say the map to get to the place where you want it to be, that's not available from the perceptual state that you're actually functioning in right now. So breathing is about changing that, tapping into it, zooming out on
and being
what's
able to do it
happening.
on command.
Yeah.
So access it at the most, as you get better and better at it, to access it at any time that you want. Because, and we're designed to do that. That's the thing. Physically, we're designed to do that. You hit the fight or flight response, if the, lion jumps out of the bush and is running after you, you're not thinking, you don't need to take in everything at once. All you need to know is, extra adrenaline and energy storehouses go to the big muscles, right? And not so much to opening up your perception, because all you're trying to do is to get from A to the tree as quickly as possible, leaving everybody else for bait behind you.
Right.
So
and A is where
there.
you are right now, and B is $1 million richer, or madly in love,
Right.
or spiritually connected,
Right.
or whatever.
Right. Exactly. And so, but we also need to know that that's not we're not in that's not a fight or flight response. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it may feel like it sometimes. People get all jazzed up about this, that, or the other thing, and sometimes it's correct. That you need to make a decision quickly or whatever. But wouldn't it be better to take a few minutes to be able to sort of lay everything out, all the options out, and look at them, in a different way, and say, with all of this given, what's going to be the best option for me at this point? What's going to bring me closer to the end result that I'm looking for? So being able to shift into those different states at different times. I mean, again, mastery is in the transitions. Each one of those levels is attainable, but the idea is that how do I shift from one to the next? How do I utilize that to put myself into a place that I want more than where I am right now? That's it. And I think that's, that's the true focus of the breathing aspect of it. It's one of the easiest way to change your perceptual state, and you can prove it to yourself very quickly. That's the other part. I mean, it doesn't take years of work, as it's out there. If you ask people will say years and years of doing this. Yes, obviously you get better the longer you do it, and you can change things in a more minute way, in a more specific way. But just to prove to yourself that it's possible, 5 minutes. If you can't spend 5 minutes, you don't need to be watching these videos, so it's like, that's the thing. If you can't spend the minimum amount of time just to prove to yourself that some other aspect is possible, that's
what do you
the
mean
idea.
by that?
Like,
some other aspect is possible.
we've been indoctrinated in our lives, at least in this culture, and probably others as well, that things are as they are as you see them. That work is work, and this is family life is supposed to be like this, and nothing else. Everything else is an aberration outside of that. You have this much time to do this, and you retire at this age, and everything's sort of fixed. Here's the normal,
right.
And then everything outside of that is something to be avoided for the most part. So, so is it possible that that's just we've been trained to that idea, but it's not fixed, that can be shifted in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, we know people, and we've probably been there ourselves, that when it hasn't lined up with those things, and we've been on the deficient side of that, if we want to say that, it's been less than ideal. And so we know that it can go in the other direction. Can it go in the upward direction as well? I mean, if you ask most people, it's like they'll gladly accept the idea that they can go down in life, but it's a horrible struggle to go up in life. What's the difference, really? It's just a different state of being than what you are now. And it's no different. It's just what you're putting. The context which you're putting that place in life where you know what I'm saying, like it's like you're putting those values on that place and saying this is the normal, and then everything below that is bad and everything above that is good. It's easy to fall, but it's not easy to climb. And so but it's the same, and we do it with those. The best way to sort of break that habitual pattern of thinking that way is to change your state, change your perceptual state with something as simple as changing your breath, changing the way that you breathe for a very short period of time, and seeing if it doesn't do that, right? I mean, we can think of it I can think of it in a, let's say, a negative way or a less than optimal way. Hold your breath, or don't even hold your breath. I mean, think about it this way. If anybody's not been able to breathe, believe me, their state changes very quickly. If you go under the water and you can't breathe, panic sets in pretty damn fast. It takes a lot to be able to, a trained swimmer or somebody like that, they can put themselves in, oh, this is nothing. I have a minute's worth of air or whatever it is. I'm going to find my way out of this situation and move to a better place, right? I'm going to be able to get air again. But somebody who's not and gets caught off guard or sucks in some water or whatever, they can go into a panic state very, very fast, because breathing is essential to life, right? So, but is it not worth, a playful sort of controlled experiment in breath work to promote the idea that I can develop a different perceptual state just by changing my breathing for 5 minutes? And does it open or expand my mind to include more information or give me access to that information in a way that isn't normally available to me through the course of my day? Yeah, those insights, right? So, I mean, we've all had plenty of experiences that we haven't incorporated into our life. We've heard them, we've seen them. Breathing is a good one, right? It's like we've all heard breathing is good, but how many people actually, make breathing a part of their day consciously? And so, but when you have the experience of doing something in a playful way as a neutral, right? You're just going at it to see if it's real, to see if it's possible. Can I change my state? But just by doing this, When you prove that to yourself, it's then you have, something else to hang your hat on. It's nobody can take that away from you. They can't say that, oh, it was a fluke, or it was this, or it was that. You can do it over and over again. And the funny part is, when that momentum is building as well, now you're able to consistently do it better and better. You extend it and you utilize it in a much better way. Now it's not just trying to prove to myself that it's possible. Now, how do I use this?
Because
that's the next stage.
This
right?
is a core aspect of all magical work.
Any energetic work. I mean, breathing is critical. It's like,
but I mean, even state change is critical.
State change,
because really that's what you're doing.
You have to.
It's like when we're dealing with something that's symbolic or energetic or whatever. We're manipulating ourselves and our worlds in a different way. It's because we're in a different perceptual state at the
That's
time.
right. That's right. So you're entraining to a different vibrational rate again.
Right.
So
and the degree of difference or the depth of difference in that perceptual state often corresponds to wouldn't you say the level or intensity of the work that's being done?
Sure. And also the speed at which it happens, right? So, usually if those transitions are so fast, it can be a very cathartic sort of opening, right? It's like you hear about people in yoga that have instant, spontaneous Kundalini openings, right? And experiences. And if they're not prepared for it, it can be very damaging to them. And if they are prepared for it, I mean, to one degree or another, I mean, it can still be a pretty traumatic event, if they're not because of how quickly things happen.
The intensity of the shift in perceptual state.
How fast it happens.
Because they have no reference points when they've shifted that intensely into perceiving the world, themselves, and their environment so differently.
Right. Yeah.
So what we're talking about is a more gradual approach, one that we can do consistently.
But it doesn't mean it's less, if we want to call it traumatic, or it's not as dramatic as that would be. It's definitely, you notice something different, but you may not be able to put your finger on what is actually different without thinking about it for a while.
And yet the results, the insights, the information still comes to you. And
exactly.
That's really the takeaway
that's
from
the
that
takeaway.
Experience.
Right.
Not just the phenomena of what's happening,
right,
but what you take away from it. How does what you glean or what insights you gain from being in that perceptual state, how does that help you to relate to your environment or your world in a different way and navigate you closer to your end result?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's look, all of these things in some respect follow the same track. You see, there's nothing wrong with, and it's expected that people will get, enthralled initially with the phenomena of what they've done. So in breathing, yes, ideally we want to sort of look at the information that we've gotten and how to use it and all of that. That's great. But initially it's just going to be like, whoa, it's like,
that was cool.
That was cool.
Right.
I lost track of time. But I felt so good there. And it's not like I'm hyperventilating.
But feeling good there is a takeaway.
It's a takeaway. But, it's going to take a few times of that for people to say, okay, now that's the norm. What can I do with this? What can I do with this? There's a certain amount of time, and everybody will be a little bit different. The idea, though, is don't get trapped chasing phenomena. Don't just make that the end result. If you want to actually do something with it, you have to go beyond that point, and it becomes the norm. And now, what can I focus my attention on at the time? What can I glean from this to better my life in one way or another? What's the takeaway with that? I know I can do it consistently. So what, now what do I do? What's the next step?
Right.
How do I put it into practice? So yeah, that's definitely the point. So I feel like breathing being so important, it's sort of got we've sort of made it into this, I don't know, something that's sort of just dismissed because everybody talks about it so much that it's just sort of background noise now. But nobody's really emphasizing, the key points of like, you can change your perception very quickly with this. It doesn't take a long time. You can do it consistently. And then once you get over that phenomena, you're going to be able to then say, what can I do with this? And how is it practical in changing my environment or my life in some way, shape, or form? Right. That's it. So
take us through what's going to be the exercise?
Yeah.
That you...
The exercise, it's funny. Although I've been doing this for decades, it's always amazing to me. Now there are so many other people that are doing this, and they've called it all kinds of different things, to make it a little bit different, or theirs, or whatever it is. But it's an old technique. It's been around for millennia. It's just a matter of now it's sort of like put in a new wrapper, for lack of a better term. But we always called it the fourfold breath. But some people call it box breathing. Some people, and you hear it, everything from SEALs to executives to whatever, all of these trainers do this in one form or another. So, but the idea is very simple. And I would, let me just go through the basic idea. The basic idea is that you count out 4 and you're breathing in a pattern that's like a box, right? Or like a square, basically. So I'm breathing in for the count of 4. I'm holding my breath for the count of 4. I'm breathing out for the count of 4. And I'm holding my breath at the bottom for a count of 4. And I continue to do that in as even a pace as I can do that's comfortable for me. It can be a little quicker, a little slower, whatever. The idea is the pace is very important, which people don't put enough emphasis on if they really want to get the full effect. It's not so much the counting. It's not so much, you could count to 6, you could count to 8 or 10. It doesn't matter. The idea is the rhythm of it has to be as exact as possible, and which gets glossed over. People just, they breathe in, they breathe in, they breathe in, but they change their rate all of a sudden. That's the way the body sort of brings you back, doesn't let you take off. It doesn't let you drop down into a different state of awareness. It keeps you in that by alternating the rhythm. I'm breathing out and that feels okay, but now I don't have enough air. I have that little bit of panic, even though it's a count of 4, and even though you can breathe in whenever you need to, right? It's not like somebody's holding you under the water, right? I mean, that's the actuality of it. But you feel as though, and in that sort of place, the body's trying to bring you back to what it knows, what's familiar and comfortable for it. So the idea is that, the best thing I've found is to just get one of those little metronome apps on your phone that are free, and or if you have an old style metronome at home, use that and just turn it on so that it's a very consistent rhythm. The rhythm is everything. So fast, slow, it doesn't matter. As long as it's consistent, it's going to be okay. You should do what's comfortable for you. You'll find that as you go through it and you do it longer, the rhythm will probably slow down, over time. Not within the single exercise. You want to keep the same rhythm no matter what. So I'm setting it at, if it's 1 second per beat or whatever it is, start with something that's easy for you. But it's that consistency. Regardless of how fast or how slow, it's the consistency of doing that for 5 minutes that will alter your state, your perceptual state, okay? Again, trying to sort of, put a timer on your phone so that you don't have to worry about like, am I going too long or am I going too short, or, when is this going to be done or whatever. You can just put it aside and your mind doesn't have to think about the time. So if it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes. Again, plenty of, people have timers on their phone, right? Countdown timers, they set them for 5 minutes and they're off and away. You got the metronome on there. It's complete. It's so easy now compared to what it used to be. And so, the idea again is to, keep that rhythm, have the time set so you don't have to think about that anymore. You're just focused on the breathing, and that's it. You can count it out in the beginning. It's usually, most people do. And then after a while, you're just going to, you don't have to count it out anymore. You don't need to. It's just you hear the clicks and you're breathing in for that number of clicks and holding for that number of clicks and going down. So it's that idea. It's that consistency that will really throw you into that altered state, basically. It's changing the way your brain waves are, the way that they're, the frequency at which they're moving.
And so how does that relate back to our, our end result?
Mm-hmm. So again, for our end result, I mean, we're opening up our perception again, that we can change it on our own, that we can alter our perceptual state. And within that altering of perceptual state at will, we can alter other things that we thought were fixed in, our environments. So whether it be relationship or work or whatever it is, we can alter that as well. And we have another tool to utilize that, because now when your perceptual state opens up and you have more information, you can go into that with an open-ended question, right? You can say, I mean, the mind, hates a question asked with no answer. It doesn't matter what it is. It's driven to answer the questions. So, pose a question to yourself about some part of your environment or what's going on. What's actually happening here. Just pose the question and forget about it. Just let it go. Pose the question and forget about it. And then just do the breathing and see what information or, what opens up for you in that. Jot it down afterwards so that you don't forget it. It's not usually likely that you will forget it, but it's always good to write it down just to sort of solidify it, right? And once I write it down, I can't go back and go, oh, I really meant this. No, once you write it down, just the direct information, it's there. You've already created it you've taken it from a thought, something invisible, we don't know where it comes from, to something solid. It's written words on a page in this realm. So that's the idea. You've already done an act of creation, right? By taking it from the invisible and bringing it to the visible.
And then acting on those.
And then acting on it.
Or
right?
that information.
Yeah, whether it's just, looking at it from that point of view, or really seeing, if that comes to fruition, or if it's something you need to do it and see what the results are. It's like, again, I kind of go at it from a joyful expectation, right? Joyful effort, like a child.
Right. Really
be childlike. It's like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. This isn't a life or death. This isn't bet it all on this. These are the preliminaries to that. So it's like, you want to sort of come at it from that playful attitude, work play. Basically, and you're open to anything that happens. That's the idea too. It's like you don't have a preconceived idea. Of course, we always have desires and wants. We want it to be this, or we want it to be that. But try to suspend that just for the length of time that you actually do the practice, and then see what results you get. That way, you can correlate. Right? I did this, and it didn't have the results that I was looking for. I did this, and it did have the results I was looking for. So am I going to do more of this, or am I going to do less of it, or am I going to augment it in some way to bring about the results that I'm looking for? Did I not have enough information? I didn't know this aspect of it. Maybe I need to do this a little bit longer and see what else comes to me. Maybe I didn't get the whole answer at first, or it's just a piece of a bigger picture. Again, the idea is to, expand your mind, open up the perceptual state.
It's like consulting a deeper aspect of yourself.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of things that we take in all around through the subconscious that's mapped all that out, and we don't have access to it for most people.
We don't have access to
the
it.
Subconscious on a.
I just mean
when you want it.
Right. Well, yeah, because you're trapped in a certain perceptual state.
Right.
Yeah, or you're entrained.
Yeah, and that's like a barrier. That's like a wall. And so it won't allow those other things to come through.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of dismiss those.
So in dropping into these deeper states, just through breathing, it's like gaining or acquiring another advisor in your life.
Yeah, it's a bigger percentage of yourself that you have access to on a regular basis, rather than just working with the same old 5% that you always have,
right,
and expecting something to change.
Right.
You know, when you've got 95% that's in the vault that you can't get to.
Only when you're
Well, that
sleeping.
sucks. Yeah, when you're sleeping, and then it comes in so jumbled for most people that they don't know how to interpret it, or it gets interpreted badly, you know, in a negative aspect, or
Right.
or in a positive aspect the wrong way. You know, so it's like, again, without the experience of doing it over and over again, you know, we don't always know what to act on and what to sit on or wait for. You know, it's
It's all about consciously accessing those deeper states of awareness. And
yeah, it's just, you know, if a picture is worth 1,000 words and the subconscious, you know, communicates in symbols, it's unlimited.
right.
So you just have, you know, a vast landscape of potential there that you know, you need to have an ability to access that when you need it.
I think that's inspiring all by itself. You know, just the idea of being in deeper contact with more of the potential within you.
Right.
You know,
Right. I mean,
not just trapped on, again, the surface of like kind of our limited conceptions of ourselves that we kind of deal with and interact through on a daily basis, you know, in our mundane lives, whatever.
right. And, you know, don't forget that subconscious has, you know, other points of reference, so that, you know, you may be taking in a lot of information through your life that you just haven't not only been able to access, but you may feel like I don't have the skill set to make use of that information, but the subconscious has the skill set. You know, you just need to know how to apply it. And if you have access to it, also access the ability to utilize it. How do I put this into, you know, maybe that's your next open answer, you know, open formatted question, you know, to yourself. You know, it's like, how do I use this information to achieve my goal? What's the best utilization of this? You know, and so, you know, you try to pin it down as much as possible, and then use this. If the technique is working for you, use that technique again, you know, to sort of access the information of how to utilize this, and what's the best way to do it to achieve my goal. That's the best way, I think, or one way to do it anyway. But again, the main thing with this breathing technique is rhythm. You know, it's got to be, you'll get more out of it if it's very consistent, and a metronome is the best way to do that. Forget about the time, so because it will, your mind, your conscious mind will always drag you back to time, since time is such a big thing here. They'll always drag you back to, am I going too long? I think I'm going too long. And then you open your eyes, it's been a minute. There are people that will do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, are worried about being late for work, or worried about doing that, you know. So, and again, consistency. So I would start out, I would do 5 minutes twice a day, first thing in the morning, and then, you know, last thing at the end of the day. Maybe not so close to bed, but, you know, within a half hour of bedtime, something like that, in that range. And that way, I mean, it's 5 minutes twice a day. So, yeah, I think everybody's worth that. Their dreams and their goals are worth 5 minutes twice a day. If you asked anybody, I think they would agree that that's the case, regardless of how harried your life is.
Yeah.
You know, just to have a different perception of that, and see that it can give you, you know, the extra tools that you need in order to achieve your dreams. That's the idea. You know, it's not the only thing you need, but it's definitely an aspect that will change your perception of acquiring that. I think that's worth it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy the practice and
Let us know.
let us know how it goes. Yeah.
Send in your great stories of breathing for 5 minutes and what's happened.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.
Thanks.